Hi, I'm Ashwini. Today I'm here with Todd Vickers, who is an author of three books: The Paradox of Self Realization, Truth Like Fire, and his latest release, The Relevance of Kabir. Hi, Todd.
Hi, Ash. Pleasure to be with you again.
Same here.
Hmm.
Today we are discussing one of the most controversial topics of all time: sex. Sex is often related with obsession over a person. And when the other person does not feel the same way, then it leads to crimes. Say, for example, acid attacks. So, what in your experience is understanding of sex?
I appreciate you having the courage to raise the subject at all. In sex relations, it's common to treat a circumstance as some evidence of who we are, as if it's a reflection of ourselves. So our mistakes around sexuality are really blatant. It really shows how our mind works and how flawed it can be. Now, when I talk about the proof of who we are, the who I'm talking about is a mental concept of self. It's like a reflection of ourself in our mind that we use every day, like, I need to go to the store, I need to talk to the boss, or I'm not going to do that. This I we conceive in different circumstances and use it to reason from, to anticipate. But it can work against us, and it can be so terribly destructive. When we mistake a mental representation of self for who we are, we feel ourselves threatened by change. If we are not adapting to the realities of life, we may be struggling to alter life circumstances according to our beliefs, which may be flawed or false. One of the best things about having sex is a chance to discover what sex won't do. But as long as it's only in imagination, we can imagine sex will solve problems that it won't. We should be sexually conscious, and by that, I mean not operating from habit or prejudice. Otherwise, we might overlook what sexual experience can teach us about ourselves and our mind. Remember, a fool can have sex without becoming wise and repeat such experience any number of times. There is a difference between sexual experience and sexual maturity. We form our habits through repetition and intense experience. Let me give you an example. If I were to take my finger and just scratch this wall like this, eventually I would wear a habit in the wall, in the paint, where you could see what I was doing. Or I could take a hammer and just bang, and I could create a habit instantly. We have a habit of identifying ourselves with our passions and our sexuality because they are so important to us. Many sexual beliefs are doubtful, and we can induce sexual feelings with fantasy in our mind, or with art, or movies, or stories, or music. And in this way, virtual events and even fictions become a reference about sex that we actually feel. We judge events in our life based on points of reference that we've never experienced. It's vicarious. Sexuality actually has to do with the choices that are available in our life. And those circumstances have no obligation to correspond to some arbitrary bias like a custom. But let's consider more seriously the problem you raised, the one of obsession. Consider how a romance-motivated person obsessed with another really relates to their own mind. After all, a demanding desire to be with another when that other person has no interest is just a recipe for misery. The would-be lover is constructing an idea of a relationship in their mind. They're not even relating to the other person. If they were, they could see that they're not interested. They're relating to an image of how it could be. It's in the future. It's by definition conceptual. They experience many feelings based on what never actually happened. And no matter how beautiful the imagined events appear, they change no fact. The wannabe lover loses this manufactured joy when the reality becomes clear. And it may seem to them as if the person rejecting their desires and advances is stealing their joy, but they can't take from you what never happened. Let us liberate others from being just a prop in a cerebral autobiography, a story we tell ourselves about ourselves that we relate to emotionally. Liberate people from that. They have no obligation to live their lives according to our ideas. And we can delight in our passions and understand the world is bigger than our preconceived ideas about it. Our conceptual self dissolves in both sexual ecstasy and also when the mind is quiet. Such a self is just a mental object. It cannot be who we are. That means we don't need to struggle and suffer trying to sustain it.
That is beautifully said, Todd. I think it also relates to how mind can create unnecessary suffering.
Indeed.
So, what we think about ourselves, what we think is the situation or the circumstances or our beliefs is completely within us, and we have every power within us to change that. We can end this unnecessary suffering and also not let others suffer because of an idea that we have in our minds. Very well said. If you like our videos, subscribe to our YouTube channel for more updates. To know more about Vivriti Foundation, log on to www.Vivriti.org. Thank you for watching.